Hi, I'm William Van Horn, an anthropologist who does tarot readings. In early 20th century England, an esoteric group known as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was using the French Tarot de Marseille deck of cards for both meditative and divinatory purposes. The Tarot de Marseille had been used in playing games since at least the early 15th century in Italy and France, and instructions for its use in divination had been published in French in the 18th and 19th centuries. Arthur Waite, the leader of the Golden Dawn, commissioned the artist Pamela Coleman Smith, who was also a group member, to illustrate a new tarot deck for use by Golden Dawn members. He was primarily concerned with incorporating Golden Dawn symbolism in the major arcana cards, and he therefore gave Smith detailed instructions about how to illustrate them. However, many people feel that illustrations for the four suits of the minor arcana were left largely, if not entirely, up to Smith to create. Since Golden Dawn members were used to using the cards of the Tarot de Marseille and knew their divinatory meanings, Smith undoubtedly used the Tarot de Marseille cards as guides to create the images for the Waite-Smith suits. The resulting Waite-Smith tarot deck was published by the William Ryder and Son Company in 1909. The meanings used for the minor arcana cards by the Golden Dawn were derived from numerology as well as visual and color symbolism on the cards. We're going to take a look at each card of the Tarot de Marseille suit of batons or wands or staffs and the corresponding Waite-Smith card. When they're compared side by side, the inspiration for each of Smith's illustrations becomes obvious. I'll be using the Tarot de Marseille 2020, which is a modern portrayal of a Tarot de Marseille Type 1 deck, and the original tarot, which is a reproduction of the Waite-Smith deck. I want to thank the DeBry Company for giving me permission to use these images from their decks. The suit of batons or wands or staffs typically is used to describe action or passion. There's two themes that will help you to understand this suit. The first is that the even-numbered cards in the Tarot de Marseille have balanced images, which represent order. And the odd-numbered cards typically have a sense of disruption, which can indicate some sort of conflict. The second theme is that numerologically, cards build on the numbers of previous cards. So as we go along, I'll refer to these two themes, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So the first card, the Ace of Wands, you can see that Smith pretty much copied this image directly into the Waite-Smith deck. One represents unity or potential in numerology, and you can see in the Tarot de Marseille card it's really more like a piece of wood, a stick. It's green in the center. There's this red, so the green represents growth. The red is vitality or vigor, and a golden hand is sort of presenting this. So the golden hand represents the divine. So there's this sense from this card of unity, of potential, of origin, of beginning. And Smith shows her hand in the card that she created sort of glowing, trying to capture that sense of the divine hand glowing. And to represent the growing aspect or the growth aspect, she has these leaves coming off of the wand that she has portrayed. So the image is very similar from one deck to the next. With the second card, the Deuce of Wands, you can see these two balanced staffs that are presented. Now this is where, if you again with the Ace, you saw a living, growing piece of wood. It looked like you could maybe put it in the ground and water it, and it would grow roots. There was this potential for growth. Through the rest of the numbers of this suit, what we see are these sort of finished, polished staffs. And in the center, there's a light blue color, sort of the X that crosses there, that represents clarity. The red, again, represents vigor, and the green, the potential for growth. This is a very balanced image. It has buds on both sides, this, again, sort of representing this potential for growth, and golden blossoms, golden flowers at the top and bottom that represent intelligence, wisdom, even potentially the divine. So there's really this sense of balance, a growth from one. There's two instead of one now. And one of the potential interpretations is that this is representing good fortune or riches. You see in Smith's card that she's depicting these two staffs, and you have an individual who's sort of dressed very luxuriously, sort of looking off the parapet of a castle or a palace and surveying the land. He has the globe in his hand. So this is that idea of planning for fortune or riches, sort of opportunity that's bound to come at some point in time. So this is what she's displaying in this card. With the Three of Wands, in the Tarot de Marseille, you can see there's this sense of growth, realization from 2 to 3 is just continual growth in the number of staffs that are being shown. And a lot of red. In the center, you still have this light blue, which represents, again, clarity. You have the red, which can represent vitality and vigor. And buds on the sides, representing the possibility of growth. So one of the interpretations that the Golden Dawn was using was established enterprise, that there's a growth coming out of 1 and 2 to 3, that something as an enterprise has begun to move along. And Smith has sort of depicted this in her card. You see, she gives you 3 staffs, but then this individual is looking out over ships that are in a river or a bay, kind of sailing along, and there's this sense of movement, of enterprise occurring. And this is what she's portraying as the meaning coming out of this Three of Wands. With the Four of Wands, again, we see balance in the Tarot de Marseille card. You have these 2 pairs of wands that are now crossed as an X. And again, 2 is sort of representing a sense of growth. So you have 2 sets of growth here. Really, this sense of growth becoming even more complex. You have a diamond for the first time being represented in the center, this white diamond, which represents purity. It's surrounded by clarity. So there's this real potential for growth coming out of number 4. And blossoms, multicolored blossoms at the top and the bottom of the card. The buds on the side now have very sort of expansive, luxurious foliage. So this is really representing a sense of, with 2 pairs, you have a sense of structure. You can sort of see that in the design of the card. It looks very stable. And this can represent, for the Golden Dawn, in their interpretations, union, 2 pairs in union. Also prosperity, concord, a group of people getting along. And in Smith's card, you see she portrays 2 pairs to sort of carry over this symbolism from the Tarot de Marseille card. The flowers blossoming on the Marseille card, you see at the top she has this cascade, this garland of vines and fruits and flowers to show that growth potential is there. And then in the center, 2 individuals, and one of them dressed in white and pale blue, just like the diamond in the center of the Marseille card, carries this sense of clarity and purity. And also people in the background in association. So there's this sense of stability, but also prosperity, also union between 2 individuals, concord between a group of individuals. And she's sort of carrying this design over a bit from the Tarot de Marseille card, a bit more obviously with the 4 card. With the 5 of Wands, you can see this sense of discord or disharmony that can come. There's a central staff that's now been added. It occludes the diamond in the center. Basically, you can't see that clear diamond anymore. It's moving across that area. And it sort of disrupts that nice balance of 2 pairs of staffs that we saw in 4. So there's this disruption to the harmony or the balance. There's still buds on the side. There's still a potential for growth. But this card can indicate change, instability from 4. Coming out of that nice balance in 4, we see a sense now of disruption and instability. And this is what Smith is carrying over into her card, her illustration, the sense of instability, which can lead to conflict, it can lead to competition, and she has a group of youths who are very much unstable with their this array of wands. And that's something else you see in the Marseille card, is there's all of a sudden an array of staffs, and she's portraying the same thing. The card is visually filled with all of these staffs in the sense of competition and potential conflict and discord. So the meaning from the Tarot de Marseille is pretty obviously being pulled over into her attempt to illustrate it in the Waite-Smith deck. In the Six of Wands card, again we see this sense of balanced image. There's two sets of three staffs. And three again is basically talking about growth and expansion from two earlier in this suit. So now you have two threes. So you have this sense of a lot of growth. The flowers at the top and bottom are in full bloom. There's a lot of vegetative growth on the sides of the card. And the diamond in the center has become very complex. And by the way, the center of the card, it depends on your style of reading, but it can represent the person asking the question. But you see there's four white diamonds and still the pale blue, so this a sense of clarity and purity, and a lot of red and lots of dashes of greens at the top. So there's this real strong sense of vitality and growth. And this card can represent a sense of harmony. It's a resolution to that discord that we saw in the 5, that disruption in the 5 card. And one of the senses can be triumph or victory, which is what Smith depicts on her card. She shows this the sense of the Marseille card of this resolution to the conflict in number 5, and essentially a triumph or a victory over that conflict, with the laurel wreaths and the individual riding on the white horse. So she's very strongly again sort of pulling over the sense of the card and into the illustration that she's creating. With the 7 card, again we see this sense of disruption. There's another staff that's added. It sort of affects the symmetry of the two groups of threes, and again it occludes a couple of the white diamonds as it runs behind this array of staffs. There's no flower at the top or bottom. There's vegetative growth at the sides, however, but again there's a sense of imbalance to the harmony and the growth and the victory of number 6. And again, a sense of sort of challenge or strife is one of the meanings that can come out of this. And this is what she depicts in her card, is this individual with the single staff that's in the center of the Marseille card against the other 6 staffs, basically showing this sense of opposition or disharmony or strife that could be going on. So she's really pulling that meaning out and trying to depict it visually in her representation. The 8 of Wands, again, we get that sense of symmetry and balance. We get the flowers blossoming at the top and the bottom. And this time we get gold for the first time behind the central area of diamonds. And gold representing wisdom, intellect, even the divine. So this makes this a stronger sense of balance and harmony with that color pattern indicated in the center. And 4, if you remember earlier in the suit, growing out of 3, there was this sense of stability and of structure, but the suit has moved along now. It's all the way up to 8, and you have these 2 groups of 4. So a real strong sense of growth has come out of this particular card. And it can represent direction and activity. You see all of the red, all of the green representing vitality and growth. And this is what Smith pulls into her image. This is one of those images that when you're a beginner, I know when I first started, I started reading the Waite-Smith deck. And first time I looked at this card, it's like, what does this possibly mean? And she's showing 8 staffs, they apparently are in the air and descending, so she's trying to represent this sense of movement. And again, this idea of direction, and in the Marseille card, all that red showing vitality or activity. She's pulling that into her representation in the Eight of Wands with this sense of staffs moving through the air, wands moving through the air, and descending, so there's a sense of direction and movement. In the Nine of Wands, again, there's a disruption to the harmony of the two sets of four staffs. There's that additional staff added. But if you notice, it does not in any way occlude the golden diamonds. It's not really disrupting the pattern that's seen in the card. There's no vegetative growth. Numerologically, you have three sets of three to make nine, so there's three representing growth. There's growth of growth being represented by three threes. So that's potentially a meaning you can take from the cards. But again, there is that all of that red and that one staff that's sort of disrupting the pattern. So the numerical cards of the suit are nearing completion. 10 is going to represent completion. So there's the sense that with three threes, there's been a lot of growth. You're nearing completion. And there's this sense of order and discipline, but also the possibility of aggression from the red and disruption. And Waite depicts this in her card. She's basically showing this array of 8 staffs in the background, and again, that one staff that's not in line with the balance of the others is being held by this individual. And there's order and there's discipline, but there's also the possibility of some sort of disruption or conflict, and this individual is ready for that. Her cards visually are, I think, meant to be mnemonic devices. In other words, if you already know the meanings, you put this card down and it sort of jogs your memory as to what this card means. It's not supposed to give, I don't think, all of the meanings, which is perhaps one of the problems that we run into learning the Waite-Smith tarot cards, the suits. We sort of think that there's maybe one meaning because of the pictures that she presented, but she's just giving you one major meaning, I believe, to sort of jog your memory and make you remember what the whole card is about. But she captures this sense of order, discipline, and also potential for aggression and disruption in this card with this image. With the Ten of Wands, we've reached the end of the numerical part of the suit, and you can see this array of wands in the Marseille card just sort of visually fills the card. There's just a lot of staffs that are being presented. There's the golden diamond, golden blue diamond. There's a lot of red. There's a lot of green, so vitality and growth. And the foliage on the sides and buds once again. There's a lot of potential for growth being shown on the sides. Numerologically, 10 can represent the completion. It's the perfect number. It can represent the end of a cycle. And with all of these staffs being presented, it can represent fortune or gain. This is, again, what Smith is depicting in her card as this individual with all 10 staffs in his arms. This is showing sort of the gain and the fortune. But at the same time, that's a lot to deal with. So there's also this sense of trying to cope with everything that's going on. But she's representing this idea that the number 10 represents the completion and this vast array of wands that has been created through the numerical process. Now, with the court cards, we start with the Page of Wands. In French, it's valet. They've translated it into English as knave. This is basically a youthful attendant to a knight, is sort of the image that's being presented, and the next card being the knight, of course. And you can see, again, just like with the ace, Smith has pretty much just copied this image, carried it over into and illustrated it in her style. The other interesting thing is with the ace, we saw a green living club, and then throughout the rest of the numerical suit, it was these fancy staffs that were painted colors. Here again, we get the green living piece of wood. And we find that throughout the court cards. So there's a resumption of this theme of green representing growth. The page you can see in the Marseille card, his clothing is sort of dominated by green for growth, gold for wisdom and intellect, the red is vitality. So there's the potential for all of these things. With the Marseille card, there's this sense that with a valet or a knave, they are learning. They're taking care of a knight, but they're also learning to become a knight themselves. The introduction of the word page, Waite interpreted this as a page to present that that sense of also bringing a message. So that's incorporated into the Waite-Smith definitions. You can see on the Marseille card the ground is untilled. There's tilled rather, excuse me. They've tilled the ground, but there's no growth yet. So this is the youth that's ready to learn. And that color scheme has sort of been carried over into the Waite-Smith card also. Whereas the valet was dominated by the color green for growth, here we have the knight, and the knights represent action in any suit. He's on his horse, and the knight is dominated by the color gold. He's wearing golden armor, so again, the sense of intellect and wisdom. He's got yellow clothing on, or red clothing on underneath, which represents vitality and vigor. Then the green growing staff again. And it depends on how you interpret it, but for many, the heading to the left on the card in the Marseille suit can represent heading towards the past. You see that the horse and the knight are both turned to look to the future and look to the green growing staff. And the horse itself is this pale blue and white, purity and clarity. There's also, if you notice, the tilled ground now has some new growth starting to come out of it. So there's really this sense of action and change related to the suit of wands and the knight turning to move to the future. And here's one of the differences between the Smith's illustrations and the Marseille cards. She also depicts the knight. She depicts him with yellow gold also. She's put in some symbolism from the Golden Dawn belief system, the salamander, which is supposed to represent fire, and you can see the plume coming out of his hat and off his cape, or also sort of look like flames, so the sense of tying fire to the suit of wands. But the knight is heading left. He's heading possibly towards the past. But anyway, he's looking in a different direction than the knight and the horse are from the Marseille suit. So that's one of the differences with Smith's illustration of this particular card. With the queen going from the green clothing of the page to the golden armor of the knight, we now have this red robe that she's wearing, vitality, and essentially a golden crown and a golden wreath showing intelligence and wisdom. And she's holding this green wooden scepter, we assume, again indicative of growth. She represents inner mastery of the suit's qualities, which are action and passion. And she again is looking to the future. And you can see the ground behind her. This tilled field is now green with growth. So she's sort of representing inner mastery of her actions and her passions and the ability to use them wisely with the golden crown and the wreath. Smith has pulled this over into her card. She's instead given a golden robe gown, excuse me, to the queen, but she's got that sense of growth in the sunflower that the queen is holding, and again her staff has leaves coming out of it representing growth. Now behind her there is that tapestry or that banner on the wall that represents this red, again representing vitality, and of course the enigmatic cute little black cat in the foreground that she put into this particular illustration. But notice that the queen again is looking in the same direction as on the Marseille card. And finally we come to the King of Wands, and you notice in the Marseille card he's holding a large green scepter, again indicative of growth, the golden hat and crown, which represents wisdom, intellect, but he has this pale blue armor on, which represents a sense of clarity. He's embodying the authority, the basically action and vitality authoritatively, and he's wise about it, as indicated by the crown. And he is sitting on a throne. He's governing action and vitality. You notice again the direction he's looking is towards the future. The King of Wands in Smith's depiction is looking in the other direction again. So another difference in terms of the direction the figure is looking. But the King of Wands, again, has the colors of red and gold, green for growth, and depictions of salamanders. There's even a small salamander on the ground next to the king. But the depictions for the court cards in general seem to come pretty much directly from the cards of the Marseille deck. I wanted to finish just by showing when you line up the cards of the Tarot de Marseille, you line up the court cards from the page all the way up to the king, you see that they're all looking to our right, basically looking towards what may be the future, again, depending on how you read, but they're looking in the same directions. There's this sense of uniformity, and if you take that as the future, it's about action and vitality growing and moving into the future. The cards from the Waite-Smith deck, you can see Smith's depiction of the page and the knight. They're facing one another, and the same for the queen and the king. It's just a different pattern visually of where they're looking, and depending on how you read the cards and what message you may take from this in the particular reading that you're doing, this could affect it and be a bit different. But it's definitely a different sense from the flow of all of the court cards looking in the same direction. So when we place the cards side by side, it becomes obvious how Pamela Coleman Smith took inspiration from the Tarot de Marseille cards to create her images. Even the numerical cards, where you're really just being shown arrays of staffs, she's carrying that sense over into her cards, and in some cases where you have an individual holding on the odd cards one staff versus the even numbered of staffs that they're arrayed against. This is kind of obvious to me how she's pulled that symbolism over to create her cards. This, by the way, is, we don't know what Pamela Coleman Smith had in her head or how she actually created the cards. So this is just me taking a look at them and comparing them side by side, but it seems to me that there is a relationship between the Marseille cards and the images that Smith created. If you like this video, please feel free to hit like and feel free to share the link, and take care, and peace be with you.